Hey guys, it's Mike and Bob Bryan here. You're watching the Mylan World Team Tennis Week in Review presented by Wilson.
Tennis as a team sport is a concept that dates back 4 decades. A team sport where the best male and female players in the world compete side by side for a common cause. Individual talents combining forces for the sake of a collective good. And that good has never been greater than the Washington Castles. A dominant franchise whose power and passion won them a record 34 straight matches and the last 3 Mylan World Team Tennis titles. However, 6 other teams came into the season with the singular goal of dethroning the dynasty from DC. The quest for the 2014 King Trophy culminates in championship team tennis next. This is Mylan World Team Tennis Week in Review, presented by Wilson. Though they had already clinched a playoff spot going into the final week, this year's Castles team looked somewhat vulnerable. Washington had only lost 2 matches over the course of the last 3 seasons, but in 2014 had dropped 3 matches in just 1 week. Nipping at their heels the other Eastern Conference team to have secured a playoff berth, the surging Philadelphia Freedoms, who were looking to earn the top seed in the East and home court advantage in the conference finals. In the West, the San Diego Aviators, one of 2 teams to join the league this season, had already established a winning tradition. Going into week 3, the Aviators had not only clinched a spot in the Western Conference finals, but also secured home court advantage for that playoff match. San Diego's opponent was yet to be determined, as all 3 other teams in the West, Springfield, Texas and Austin, were still in the playoff hunt. Philadelphia hosted Austin to kick off the final week of the season. Andy Roddick's Aces needing a win to keep their playoff hopes alive, whilst Frank Dancevic's Freedoms had already clinched a spot in the Eastern Conference final, but were still vying for home court advantage in that one. And men's singles kicked off the match. Dancevic versus Roddick. The former US Open champion and world #1 came to the net in this terrific point, a strategy that paid off as the passing shot from Dancevic sailed out. The Canadian Dancevic had been a driving force behind the Freedoms' 5-match winning streak coming into this one, and his strong play continued. Roddick again coming in off the short ball and then showing some nice touch to finish off the point. This set went to a 9-point tiebreaker at 4 games all, and it was Dancevic unleashing a scorching forehand down the line to take the opening set, 5 games to 4, to put the Freedoms up early. Women's singles, and Austin's Varvara Lepchenko in the near court here, seeing her first action of the WTT season, taking on fellow lefty Taylor Townsend at the Freedoms. Lepchenko, who was born in Uzbekistan, became an American citizen 3 years ago, and the former top 20 player took command early. Townsend, the 18-year-old, hanging in with a nice forehand winner. But ultimately, Lepchenko was too tough. Set point here for the resident of Allentown, Pennsylvania, about an hour north of Philly, and Lepchenko took down Townsend 5-2 to give the visiting Aces a 2-game lead. Mixed doubles next, with Philly's Marcelo Melo and Liesl Huber in the near court, taking on Trek Hui and Eva Hurdenova for Austin. Melo and Huber, both experienced doubles players, and after an extended rally, Melo, who would be named male MVP of the league later in the week, tracked down this ball and hit the winner. But Hui and Hurdenova were the better team on this night. The Czech woman at 6'3", the tallest player in the women's professional game, showed good reflexes at the net. And then set point. Austin prevailed 5-3, a result that put the Aces up by 4 games and pleased their coach Rick Leach. In women's doubles, it was Huber and Townsend taking on Hurdenova and Lepchenko, and Huber was the best player on the court, dictating with her forehand. The Freedoms were cruising thanks to Huber, the 38-year-old South Africa-born American. Almost an intergenerational tandem, as Huber was 19 years old when her partner Townsend was born in 1996. And the elder player showing great reflexes, that one worth another look. As Philadelphia won the women's doubles 5-2 to pull within 1 game with a set to play. That was men's doubles, and Roddick and Hui taking on Dancevic and Melo. Check out this get by Dancevic. That earned him quite the ovation from his Philly teammate Taylor Townsend and team owner Billie Jean King on the bench. But then Roddick took over. Look at the teamwork with Huey. Roddick looking like a double specialist there. And then this backhand return winner from the 2003 US Open champ. Match point, Huey serving, and the Aces won it 5-3 to keep Austin's playoff hopes alive. The Freedom's loss combined with the Castles win the next night gave Washington home court advantage for the Eastern Conference Finals. The gorgeous skyline of America's finest city, as San Diego is known, was the backdrop for the match between the Aviators, who had already clinched the top seed in the West, and the Texas Wild, still in the playoff hunt. The Aviators' biggest weapon, the twin tandem of Bob and Mike Bryan, the greatest men's doubles team in history. But David McPherson, the Aviators coach, opted to start the match with men's singles and his WTT rookie Somdev Devarman. The opponent was the Wild's Alex Bogomolov. And the very first point of the match was a stellar one. Bogomolov won it and was so pumped he had to high-five his entire team on the sidelines. You'd never see that at the All England club. But after the early break by Bogey, Devarman started playing well. On this point, he uncorked a number of lethal forehands, too tough for Bogomolov to handle. Devarman won 11 of the last 14 points and crushed this early forehand on set point to take it 5-2 and give San Diego the early lead. On to women's doubles, where the Aviators' Daniela Hanchikova and Květa Peschke were taking on the Wild's Anabel Medina Garrigues and Daria Jurak. Hanchikova and Peschke figured to prove a formidable test for the Wild. Hanchikova's backhand winner got the Aviators' owner Russell Geiser out of his seat. But then Medina Garrigues and Jurak asserted themselves. The Wild were still in the hunt for a spot in the Western Conference Finals to be held here in San Diego in 2 days. And with inspired play, the duo kept their team's playoff hopes alive. They won the set 5-2 to even the match at 7 games all. In mixed doubles, it was Mike Bryan and Peschke for the Aviators facing Hassan Qureshi and Medina Garrigues for the Wild. Mike Bryan was broken in his opening service game, but before Texas could run wild, he and Peschke took command. McPherson, the Bryans' longtime coach, approved of that one. And then Peschke ended this extended rally with a nifty lob that caught Qureshi flat-footed. On set point, it was Qureshi netting a volley, much to his dismay. Mike Bryan and Květa Peschke took it 5-3 to put the Aviators up 12-10. So in women's singles, the Wild were needing Medina Garrigues in pink to come up big against Hanchikova, as she had done against Venus Williams the previous week. But Hanchikova, the former world number 5, was playing too tough, hitting ground strokes like that. Each of these women was playing her first season of Mylan World Team Tennis at 31 years of age, and each made a significant contribution to her team this season. Medina Garrigues would be named Female Rookie of the Year at week's end, and Hanchikova, the Slovakian, won Female MVP of the league in her debut season. Hanchikova dominated this one, winning 5-1 to give the Aviators a 6-point lead going into the final set. Mike and Bob Bryan in the near court here were not going to relinquish that commanding lead against Bogomolov and Qureshi. The Bryan brothers playing in their 12th season of World Team Tennis, but their first in Southern California, where they're from. And the 15-time Grand Slam doubles champions, showing their patented chest bump here, did not disappoint their teammates or the San Diego faithful. With San Diego already assured of home court advantage in the Western Conference Finals, it wasn't a must-win, but on their 6th match point, the Bryans put it away. The 5-2 win gave the Aviators the overall match victory on the penultimate day of the regular season. The Aviators hosted the Austin Aces in picturesque San Diego on the 18th and final day of the regular season. To stay alive for a spot in the conference finals against San Diego, Austin needed a win, plus some help from the Lobsters, who were playing in Springfield that same night. Talk about pressure for Jason Jung, a late substitution for the Aces, facing Somdev Devarman of the home team. And Jung got a first-hand demonstration of why Devarman would be named Mylan World Team Tennis Male Rookie of the Year at week's end. Great stuff from de Varman. Jung, who is 25 years old, was born in Torrance, California, the city that also produced figure skating legend Michelle Kwan. Currently ranked just inside the world's top 300, Jung really had no answers here. De Varman blanked him 5-zip to put the aces in the hole early. Next up, women's doubles, and in the yellow and black, Kveta Peshki and Daniela Hansikova, one of the best teams in the league, taking on Eva Hurdinova and Varvara Lepchenko for the aces. And look at this forehand from Hurdinova. The 30-year-old Hurdinova, who hails from the Czech Republic, was playing her first season of World Team Tennis. Austin was able to break Peshki's serve and take a 3-1 lead. Then more good stuff from Hurdinova at the net here. The aces upset Peshki and Hansikova 5-2 to keep Austin close. In mixed doubles, it was lefty Bob Bryan and Peshki for the Aviators versus Trek Hui and Hurdinova for the aces. Some spectacular tennis from the San Diego side. Bob has won 7 career Grand Slam mixed doubles titles. His partner Peshki lost to him in 2 of those finals at the US Open in 2006 and in 2010. Peshki setting up Bob perfectly, and the pair won convincingly 5-2 to give the home team a 12-7 lead after 3 sets. Next to women's singles, and Varvara Lepchenko of the aces facing Daniela Hansikova of the Aviators. Austin leading the win as one of 3 teams in the West still vying for a playoff spot on this, the final day of the regular season. But it was too tall a task for Lepchenko against the 5'11" Hansikova. The Slovakian was playing so well, showing a nice touch on the drop shot here. The lefty Lepchenko is a very solid player, but this set went to Hansikova 5-3, and the aces deficit grew to 7 games going into the 5th set. So when your season is on the brink, the last pair you want to face are the Bryan brothers. Jung and Huey had that unenviable task, and they were unsurprisingly no match for the top-ranked men's doubles team in the world. Check out this point, just amazing reflexes by Bob Bryan at the net. And match point, a mere formality, as was the celebratory chest bump. The Bryans won it 5-2, and San Diego's 10-game victory sent Austin into the off-season. So entering the final day of the regular season, Springfield, Texas and Austin were each still alive in the playoff hunt. But it was the Lasers who earned a trip to San Diego for the Western Conference Finals by virtue of their defeat of the Lobsters. The Austin Aces finished 1 game back in their debut season, and the Texas Wild also finished at 6-8. The winner of San Diego and Springfield in the West will play the winner of the Eastern Conference Championship between Washington versus Philadelphia. The Castles were hosting that one, as for the 4th straight season, they finished the regular season atop the Eastern Conference, and at 1-13, the Lobsters had gone to pot. San Diego was the setting for the Western Conference Championship as the Aviators earned the top seed in the West in their first season of Mylan World Team Tennis play. The crowd on hand at the Valley View Casino Center welcomed the visiting Springfield Lasers, and of course the Bryan brothers for the home team. The match opened with men's singles. Michael Russell for the Lasers taking on Somdev de Varman, male rookie of the year for the Aviators. Russell had defeated de Varman both times they played during the regular season, and Russell, the 36-year-old and himself a former WTT male rookie of the year, was looking sharp again. De Varman played well too, coming in off the short return here, and there were no breaks of serve throughout the first 8 games of the match. In the tiebreaker, the American held off 3 set points and showed a lethal forehand. On set point, de Varman's shot sailed wide, and Russell quieted the home crowd by getting the visiting Lasers out to a 5-4 lead. Next up was women's doubles with Olga Gavortsova and Liga Dekmeyer-Thomas getting instructions while their opponents Kveta Peschke and Daniela Hantukova talked it over with 2014 Coach of the Year David McPherson. Peschke and Hantukova jumped out to a 4-1 lead, but then lost 3 consecutive games. Check out the winner from Dekmeyer-Thomas there. So a big lead squandered by San Diego, and this set went to a 9-point tiebreaker as well. And a blistering backhand return winner from Peschke. On the Aviators' third set point, Gavortsova's volley fell short. And the Aviators completed the 5-4 victory to even the match at 9-all. Mixed doubles pitted Bob Bryan and Peschke for the Aviators against Ross Hutchins and Gavortsova for the Lasers. The Lasers had broken Peschke's serve to go up 2-1, but the Aviators broke right back to even the set at 2-all. And then Bryan and Peschke started to pull away from Gavortsova and Hutchins, the Wimbledon-born Englishman who is in remission from Hodgkin's lymphoma. Bob Bryan, the 7-time major mixed doubles champion, was in command, and he and Peschke prevailed 5-3 to give the hometown Aviators a 2-game lead with 2 sets to play, including men's doubles. It was looking very good for San Diego at that point. In women's singles, it was former top 5 player Hantukova against Gavortsova, the 6-foot Belarusian. And Gavortsova played some clutch tennis, winning all 3 of the 3-all points and breaking Hantukova's serve twice. Gavortsova, a 25-year-old in her first season with the Lasers, blanked Hantukova 5-love to give the Lasers a 3-game lead. And Hantukova, the female MVP of the league, was stunned. So the deciding set, men's doubles, featuring Bob and Mike Bryan in the caps against Russell and Hutchins. The Bryans faced a steep climb to wipe out the 3-game deficit facing the Aviators. And unfortunately for San Diego, the Lasers duo wasn't conceding anything to the team that has won 98 ATP doubles titles together, including 15 majors. Perhaps when you've beaten cancer as Hutchins has, a top-ranked doubles team is not a daunting opponent. All night, the Lasers were getting unexpected contributions, and Russell and Hutchins improbably took down the Bryans 5-3. The Lasers won 10 of the last 13 games of the match to take the Western Conference title. John Lafnidiaga, in his 8th season as Springfield coach, got his squad to overcome an 0-3 start to the season and make it back to the WTT finals. Washington, D.C. was the site of the Eastern Conference Final. Fans of the 3-time defending champion Castles loosened up before their team hosted the Philadelphia Freedoms, owned by league co-founder Billie Jean King. In men's singles, the first event, it was Bobby Reynolds facing Frank Danchevich of the Freedoms. Reynolds, known as the closer during his stellar WTT career, had announced he was retiring at the end of the season. The 32-year-old American won the first 10 points of the set and took it 5-3 to put the Castles on top early. An emotional night for Reynolds. In women's singles, 18-year-old Taylor Townsend beat 5-time Grand Slam singles champion Martina Hingis for the first time in 4 tries this season. Townsend's 5-2 victory put the Freedoms up by 1 game. Hingis stayed on court for the mixed doubles, pairing with Leander Paes to face Liesl Huber and 2014 male MVP Marcello Mello of the Freedoms. Huber and Mello were the league's top-ranked mixed doubles team during the regular season, but Hingis and Paes played inspired tennis, notching a 5-2 win to give the home team a 2-game lead. And it looked like the Castles were on their way to a 4th consecutive Eastern Conference title. In women's doubles, an unfortunate turn of events for Philly. Huber is struck in the back of the head by a forehand from her teammate Townsend. Fearing she had been concussed, Huber was not allowed to continue. However, instead of forfeiting the remainder of the set, Townsend opted to play on, hoping to at the very least win games off her serve. Every game in world team tennis is critical, as each game counts towards a team's cumulative score. But Hingis and Anastasia Rodionova take the set 5-1, a turning point in the match and the season for both teams, as DC took a comfortable 6-game lead going into the final set, men's doubles. Despite shots like this inside-out forehand winner from Reynolds, the Freedoms duo of Dančević and Melo saved face for Philly, defeating Pays and Reynolds in the final set. The Freedoms won the set 5-3 to force overtime. But Pays and Reynolds take the first game in OT to close it out for DC. The loss of Huber back in women's doubles, a tough break for Philadelphia, which they could not overcome. For Castles coach Murphy Jensen, his fourth consecutive Eastern Conference crown. For this soon-to-be retired Bobby Reynolds, a victorious moment in his last match in DC. The Castles were winners of the East once again, but plenty of work remains as this WTT Dream Team chase yet another championship. The Washington Castles' reign began in 2011 when they capped an undefeated season by taking the King Trophy. In 2012, Washington successfully defended its title with a second straight 16-0 season and a narrow win in the championship. And last year, the Castles completed the three-peat and extended their dynasty, trouncing the Springfield Lasers to win a third consecutive trophy and fourth in 5 years. Springfield, Missouri's Cooper Tennis Complex was the site of the 2014 Mylan World Team Tennis Finals between the host Springfield Lasers, surprise champions of the Western Conference, and the three-time defending league champion Washington Castles. Men's singles opened the championship, and it was Bobby Reynolds playing the final singles match of his professional career, taking on a familiar opponent, fellow American Michael Russell. And Russell broke Reynolds' serve early to give the Springfield fans reason for optimism. But Reynolds got the break and the momentum right back. The two men held serve the rest of the way to force a 9-point tiebreaker. With overheads like this, Reynolds asserted himself in that tiebreak. He won it 5-3 to give the Castles the one-game lead early. Women's singles next, and Martina Hingis, who said she was very nervous before this match, talking with coach Murphy Jensen before taking on the Lasers' Olga Gavurtseva, the 6-foot Belarusian. Gavurtseva jumped out to a 2-0 lead, playing some great early tennis in the set. But Hingis, as she has on so many occasions for the Castles in the last 2 years, showed the quality that made her a former world #1. Hingis was moving so well, turning defence into offence, and after that passing shot, Jensen and his Castles crew were pumped. Remember, Gavurtseva, a huge reason why the Lasers were back in the WTT finals. 3 nights earlier in the Western Conference finals, Gavurtseva had stunned the 2014 female MVP of the league, Daniela Hantukova, by a score of 5-love. So the 25-year-old is certainly a dangerous foe. But Hingis handled the windy conditions and her opponent beautifully. After surrendering the early break, she reeled off 5 straight games to take the set 5-2 and give the Castles a 4-game lead. To men's doubles, and Reynolds in the final set of his professional tennis career, pairing with Leander Pays. Springfield sent out Russell and Ross Hutchins, and the Castles broke Hutchins' serve early. Russell and Hutchins were the team that beat the Bryan brothers in the final set of the Western Conference Finals, and they did have some bright spots, including this point. But Pays and Reynolds, who between them have won 3 league MVP awards and 1 finals MVP award, were too tough. On set point, Reynolds closed out his career with a sharp volley, and the Castles took this one 5-2 to extend their overall lead to 7 games. Some of the Washington faithful on hand were chanting Reynolds' name after it was all over. Women's doubles featured Hingis and Anastasia Rodionova in the red against Gavurtseva and Liga Dekmaier-Thomas. And the Castles ran away with this one. Hingis and Rodionova were a solid team all season. Excellent communication between them, and the Lasers had no answers. This championship was a rematch of last season's final between Washington and Springfield. And as was the case in 2013, the Castles were in command throughout. Hingis and Rodionova won it 5-1. So the Castles enjoying a massive lead going into the mixed doubles, facing Hutchins and Gavortseva, and the Belarusian with the impressive backhand return winner here. But Hingis and Pays were so tough. Hingis would be named Finals MVP for her efforts. The final sets of this match felt less like a competition and more like a coronation for the Castles. The mixed doubles did go to a tiebreaker, but Pays and Hingis won it to give the Castles the 25-13 win and their record-tying 4th consecutive King Trophy. It was the Castles' 5th title in 6 years, a successful send-off for Bobby Reynolds, who was retiring from professional tennis. And afterwards, Murphy Jensen, who has led the Castles to 5 titles in 6 years at the helm, talked about coaching a Mylan World Team Tennis dynasty.
It's unbelievable to be able to coach Leander Paes, Martina Hingis, Anastasia Rodionova, Bobby Reynolds, and have an owner like Mark Ein. You know, it doesn't get any better. I mean, to go 4 in a row is beyond my wildest dreams. We just keep doing what we're doing, and we put in the hard yards and the hard work, and we get great results. And the secret to our success is the culture that we have, which is we play for one another, we protect one another, we never, ever quit.
In an evolving Mylan World Team Tennis landscape populated with powerful new teams and popular young stars, the one constant is the dominance of the Washington Castles. Season after season, in city after city, the Castles have exhibited the style of tennis Billie Jean King envisioned when she co-founded the league in 1974. Women and men playing side by side, crowd-sourcing support, showcasing skill and stamina, tenacity and teamwork. The Washington Castles, a team for the ages, are once again the champions of Mylan World Team Tennis. I'm Nick Lester. So long for now.